triple venti, half whole milk, 1/4, 1%, 1/4 non-fat, extra hot, split quad shots, no foam latte with whipped, 2 packets of Splenda, 1 sugar in the raw, a touch of vanilla syrup, and 3 short sprinkles of cinnamon. If that sounds like your coffee order, then you don't deserve your own mother's love. Worse yet, you're not going to find anyone with enough patience to make that monstrosity for you outside of a Starbucks. So if you love coffee, hate gimmicks, and want to drink a delicious cup of joe on top of a mountain you just climbed, then you want the Java Can, an all-in-one coffee brewing system designed by a Green Beret to make it possible to brew the finest cup of coffee anywhere on planet Earth. Use offer code AAR and get 10% off your purchase. Just go to thejavacan.com, enter promo code AAR, get 10% off, and brew your favorite cup of coffee wherever you go. Live life charged. Seabag Locker Coffee. So if you're an Army or Air Force vet, you're probably wondering what a sea bag is. Well, that's Navy talk for a duffel bag. That's right, a sea bag is a duffel bag, but for the ocean. Seabag Locker Coffee, though, is unlike anything else. Their mercenary blend is my personal favorite. Roast to your cup as fast as 4 days. So drop your anchor at theseabaglocker.com, use promo code AAR, and get 10% off your purchase of Seabag Locker Coffee. Fill up that sea bag, you dirty landlubbers, with the best tasting, freshest coffee this side of the 7 seas. www.theseabaglocker.com. So here's a cool way you can score some free Seabag Locker coffee. Take a selfie drinking a cup of coffee with your Java Can. Post it to Instagram or Facebook. Tag us at the AAR Podcast, and I'm going to send you a free bag of Seabag Locker coffee. It's that simple. Once again, take a selfie drinking a cup of coffee with your Java Can. Post it to Instagram or Facebook. Tag us at the AAR Podcast. I'm going to send you a free bag of Seabag Locker coffee. How awesome is that? If you use AAR as your promo code, once again, promo code AAR, and you get 10% off both websites, that's 20% off your purchase of the Java Can and some Seabag Locker coffee. And really, you're getting even more coffee because I'm going to send you a free bag. That's awesome. Can't lose. All right? Can't lose. So check it out. Make sure you visit thejavacan.com, theseabaglocker.com. Put these two coffee forces together and enjoy.
And now, the After Action Review with Rod Rodriguez.
And welcome to episode 39 of the After Action Review podcast. I'm your host, Rod Rodriguez. I got to tell you guys, I am pretty excited about this episode. I had a chance to sit down and talk with Vincent, Rocco, Vargas. You might know him from the Matt Best crew, Range 15, the veteran zombie movie, and his numerous podcast and YouTube appearances. He's got an awesome new show coming this fall on FX. It's a spinoff of Sons of Anarchy. It's called Mayans MC. So yeah, it's pretty cool to talk with someone as accomplished as Rocco. But honestly, before we get into this conversation, before we get into this interview, I thought he was kind of an interesting guy right off the bat with all the stuff he's done, all his accomplishments. But I'll be honest with you folks, some people I talk to on this show, they bring a certain personality to the interview, their character, if you will. So some people are famous, of course, for the character that they play in movies or on YouTube. And when they bring that character to a podcast interview, it doesn't really resonate that well. It feels like I'm talking to a fake thing, and I really am talking to a fake thing when I do something like that, because I'm talking to the personality, I'm talking to the character, not the individual. So when I knew I was going to talk to Rocco, I was kind of curious to see who would I actually be interviewing. Would I be interviewing the character that Rocco plays in all of these films, or would I be talking to the man? Would I be talking to Vincent, Mr. Vargas, if you will? And I'll tell you right now, he did not disappoint. Did not disappoint. Rocco presented himself as a man who's been through some things, a guy who loves his family, who understands what his priorities are at this point in his life. And most of all, he's just a down-to-earth vet who's working hard toward making all of it work. So with that said, and without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Vincent Rocco Vargas.
My name is Vincent Vargas, also known as Rocco. My military career consists of 4 years of active duty with 2nd of the 75th Ranger Regiment with 3 combat deployments as an infantryman. I got out of active duty and went reserves. I am still currently working on out processing of the reserves. I've been a drill sergeant for the reserves since 2008. Did a small stint as a PSYOP NCO, and then now I am focusing a lot on being a successful entrepreneur, which is always a task, and as well as now stepping into the acting, producing, writing, and as well as directing in mainstream media, entertainment.
So a lot of people may not know how they know you, but they might not be aware of how or where you came from to begin with. You broke out in social media. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, I broke out in social media through YouTube and Facebook. Early on, Matt Best, he's a Ranger buddy of mine. We were in the same unit together, in the same platoon together. Became pretty close buddies just by chance. I moved to El Paso. When he moved to El Paso, trying to expand his YouTube capabilities and social media, he already had a very successful following, and just kind of looking for characters to be on film with him. I think we both didn't expect it to turn into what it is today. My character was well received, and really my character was just me being myself and just enjoying, the crazy sketches and everything else that we came up with, and conceptualized. And so it started with YouTube, and then it started from there. It transitioned into producing our own independent film. And then from that independent film, I stepped into the mainstream entertainment.
So the independent film you're talking about is the Range 15 movie.
Yes.
And this was a very unique film because it was done with Medal of Honor awardees. It was done with veterans, and it was interesting because it seemed like some of the Hollywood guys were just the guest stars, but the real stars were the vets.
Yeah, correct. We kind of did 2 movies in one. We filmed the actual movie Range 15, and then at the same time we were filming the documentary called Not a War Story at the same time. In all reality, Not a War Story is the true heart and soul of what we did. It's 6 veterans wanted to do it. Article 15, me, Matt, and JT decided we wanted to do a movie. We reached out to a screenwriter who has a lot of talent. His name is Billy J. He helped us come up with the first concept of the script. From then on, Ross Patterson helped us rewrite it, and then Nick Palmisano actually added to it. We came to Ranger Up, which is, if people didn't realize, is one of our major competitors at the time for a t-shirt company. But they were kind of the beginnings of veteran entrepreneur as we know it. It's just on a scale that that was different. I owned several of their shirts, and so we reached out to them almost as a tribute and just a show of respect that we would love to go and do a project like this with the characters of Ranger Up. And so Nick Palmisano and his crew decided to jump on board. We crowdfunded this film, and essentially the film is a zombie comedy, right? It's us as the main actors, Matt Best as the main actor. He's the front man for it, but we all have an exaggerated version of our own personalities, which wasn't too hard for acting on an acting sense. We didn't have to really dig down in acting to portray what we wanted on film. It's a film that some people loved and some people hated, and in my opinion, it wasn't about the film at all. It was about what it took for 6 veterans to continue to break down these barriers that we put up for ourselves and be successful in somewhere that wasn't expected, right? We are the only #1 independent film to hit #1 on Amazon. Like, that's insane, right? Like, us, we're no one special, but with the teamwork and the community behind us supporting it, it became a successful film.
And you said that this was the film, this experience ignited an interest in you to pursue acting.
Yeah, so when I was younger, growing up in LA, you see actors, you live around it. Most of my friends' parents were probably in the scene somewhere, whether they're editors or whatnot, right? And I think when I was 18, I actually went to my first audition, and it was just an open casting, just show up, and I thought, this might be something I would love to do. But at the time I had a reading disorder. I was I was severely dyslexic and not getting any kind of help for it because at the time there just really wasn't, something like that. And so when they handed me the script, I knew I had a reading issue, and anxiety kind of took over. I got nervous. I couldn't read the script as fast as they wanted. I started stumbling over my words, and that was it. I walked away, right? And so out of that embarrassment, I never really wanted to do it again. I just kind of was like, maybe it's not for me. But then now, being on set, learning more about it, throughout the years, I've definitely worked on my reading, so I feel more confident in everything. And so a lot of those little demons that I've had inside me I was able to overcome. And I honestly just took a stab at doing this audition for the Mayans MC, and I landed the part.
And that's a huge thing, and that shouldn't be understated. I mean, you're on a major television show, and that is quite an accomplishment for a veteran.
Yeah, it is. I mean, deep down inside, I know how big this can be for the veteran community. It's also one of the things where I try not to say or speak out loud because I'm nervous of fucking that up, right? It's something, and sorry if I can't cuss, but
you can. It's my show. Do whatever you want.
Okay, but that's the fear, right? Like, I know that, one, it's a cool accomplishment for anyone, someone veteran or non-veteran, it doesn't matter. It's a cool accomplishment. But two, being able to do things like this it's good for our community. It's good to show that, man, Hollywood at one point was ran by veterans, and we too now can do it again, and if I am one of the first few guys to, actual combat veteran doing it, well, that's pretty exciting. And I kind of know the pressure that kind of holds with it. I want to make everyone look good. At the same time, it's a lot out of my hands. I just go in there and act, right? Like, my job is nothing more just to get up there and do what the paper tells me to do. I feel confident that I won't make us look bad as a veteran community, but at the same time, I'm nervous as all hell, right? Because I do want to make everyone proud, and I want other veterans to maybe see my path and use that as a beacon for them to kind of go in the same direction if they wanted, right? If they thought it wasn't possible, well, I'm your living proof it actually is,
What are you doing to mitigate some of that stress? Are you going into classes? Are you doing anything to prepare you for this?
I have a lot of buddies and a lot of stuff that I'm studying currently. I'm reading several books. I'm done. I've used YouTube to the extent of I don't think I can use it anymore. I've gotten so deep into that. I'm filming myself doing acting. Right. I'm just doing a lot on my own. I'm trying to find some theater work out here in Utah that I can start jumping into. I'm willing to go as far as I have to make the acting thing a successful route. But I personally know that's not my end state goal, right? Like, it's just another one of my little missions that I'd love to accomplish. I'm at the whims of the writers. If they decide to kill me off in episode 2, well then, there goes that shot, right? And so, with always having a plan A, B, C, and D, I'm preparing for if this mission gets shot down early, well then I'm going to try and jump onto another one right away. And so, you can only do that by preparing. It's just like any of us in the military, you don't go to war without training. And so I've been training my ass off.
Do you feel that the training that you've received, and I'm not talking about just shooting and all that other stuff, but the lessons about endurance and fortitude, do you find that those lessons that you learned from the military have translated towards this new, like you said, this small mission, this thing, and that's en route to the bigger stuff?
I think it helps. There's always, all the things that we've done in the military, from the hardships and mentally, this, acting is not necessarily a physical trait. It's not a physical skill. And I've always been a physical type person, right? I've always been the big guy in the room to kick the door, the guy to carry a lot of weight, but what acting essentially is emotions, and I think us as military, especially combat veterans, we run the gambit of emotions. We know what separation is. We know what loss is. We know what feeling, out of our own skin feels like. And that's just what we do daily. When you're going overseas, you're separating from family, when you're losing friends, when you're seeing death, when you as a human being are put through a life of seeing these kinds of things, you have the scale from white to dark, of what emotions to pull. And so essentially all I'm doing is, pulling a lot of these emotions into film. And I mean, I don't think acting essentially is difficult when your willingness to be vulnerable, and that's essentially it. Like, I'm okay with, if I have to cry, if I have to get angry, I have to be happy. I know where to pull all those emotions from. I did it in the surface,
Now, that's an experience that I've talked to other actors, and they tell me that in the process to becoming a better actor, you have to, like you said, really understand your own emotions and how to really tap into those things. Has that been, what kind of experience has that been for you? Really kind of going from, like you said, the big guy in the room to really touching on some of these emotions that maybe you haven't really had time to deal with.
Yeah, it's funny. I talked about a small stint of that on my podcast. I've talked about acting and how there's some things I never thought I was going to have to stir up again, and I have had to in the learning process of becoming a better actor. It's scary, but at the same time, I think there's nothing better than solid storytelling, and eventually if I can use all this experience in film and be able to create other stories, movies, TV shows, whatnot, that really reflect a veteran's life, I think the only way of doing it is going all in, and so it's essentially is what I'm trying to do. Is I'm trying to go all in. I'm trying to give myself to this art and do it as well as I can. And in doing that, there's going to be some times where it's very vulnerable and some doors that you didn't want to necessarily open, but you have to.
You mentioned that this isn't the end goal. This isn't the end state for you. What is?
Yeah, it's, I just wrote an article about, my goal is always to wake up and put my shoes on, and knowing that when my motivation of getting out of that bed is that I'm helping others, and it's hard to say that being an actor helps others, but I do see the residual effects from messages and emails that I receive from veterans, and saying that it does. It inspires them. It motivates them. It gives them hope. And as crazy that it sounds, that motivates me to continue to do more. The big picture, in all truth, is the bigger the following I get would be the bigger the voice, and which means the more ears, right? And if I can help influence, motivate, inspire more veterans to stop giving themselves these barriers, then that's my job, right? That's what I want to do. I would put that as my mission now, is really to, I didn't expect to be in the position I am now, and it's just kind of all coming together. And so as long as it keeps going in this path, I guess my goal is to continue to be the voice, and a positive voice of a veteran, and showing that dude, we're not the biggest influence in Hollywood, but it doesn't mean we can't be, and I know there's a lot of guys out there trying. There's a lot of guys out there doing it, right? Like, I'm not the only one, but I'm hoping to use this platform for good and not evil, more for hopefully to help inspire and help pave the way for others. And so someone else could come in here and eventually be the future of acting, right? There's going to be an actor, there's going to be a veteran out there, male or female, that becomes the next Oscar, award, right? Is going to be getting these Golden Globes. Like, it's going to happen. It's just, I think for a long time, guys have not focused on things like that, or believed it was out of reach. Now they see a guy like me who's tattoos and nothing special is able to find a part. I think, and I hope it shows that, man, if that's what you really want, we can definitely achieve it.
This is Rod Rodriguez thanking you for listening to the show. This is episode 39, and I can't tell you how great it was talking to Rocco. I think you're getting a sense of the kind of guy he is, the depth of character he's reaching on this journey of his to becoming an actor. Now, we are quickly approaching episode 50, and I'd love to know who you think we should celebrate our halfway mark to 100 with. Till then, keep listening, liking, sharing, and don't forget to subscribe to the After Action Review podcast on iTunes, Play Store, Stitcher, YouTube, or however you're listening to this podcast right now. A couple of ways you can support the show. Use promo code AAR when you order from cbaglocker.com or thejavacan.com. both sites. We'll give you 10% off your purchase. We'd also really appreciate your 5-star review on iTunes. If you think we deserve it, that is. We'd love to get that feedback and help the show reach more people. All right, folks, that does it for the mid-roll. Let's get back to Vincent, Rocco, Vargas. So in any good AAR, we always cover what was the intent, what went right, what went wrong, what could we do better next time. What would you say your intent is right now?
My intent is to always be a good husband, always be a great father, and then everything else comes next. So my intent is in being a father and a husband, I have to support them. And so right now, what's in front of me is acting. And so I'm using acting to pay my bills, to provide for my family. And anytime I do anything, I always give it 110%. So I'm giving acting 110%. And while it provides for my number one thing in life is my family.
How are you coping with your time management? That's one of the biggest issues that actors, people jumping and breaking into a new industry have is, management of your family, your personal life, your hobbies, and then you have this new endeavor that's taking up so much of your time.
Yeah, it's interesting. So the cool thing is that acting they don't film on the weekends, right? There's no when you're SAG after it's weekends are off, and so I live in Utah, so I fly directly home. When you're filming a season or a series, you don't necessarily work Monday through Friday. Sometimes I'm only filming Monday, Tuesday, and I'll be home the rest of the time. And so we try and do everything I can to fly home every time I get the chance. I try and come home every weekend. And when I am home, obviously we spend as much time as we can with the kids and doing stuff. And then right now, so we're in between filming now, I'm home. So it's an awesome schedule. I can sit at home, work on my computer on the business side of things and catch up on marketing and building ads and whatnot. And then the other half, I'm taking my kids to school, picking them up, and cooking dinner. So right now I'm Mr. Mom. And just because I know there's, in the next few months, I'll be gone again. And so I'm putting in the work, I'm showing them that I'm here, and they know, it's important to be relevant in your kids' lives. And I know that now because years and years of me going overseas and choosing the mission over the family first has weighed heavy on them. And so now I kind of have a different mindset about it all.
I've seen a change in your personal brand over the last, I'd say, about a year. Is this something that you have been active in doing and changing your personal brand a little bit, or is this something that maybe is this something I'm just only seeing?
What's the change? I'm curious.
I think what the change that I've seen is you seem to be a little more solo. You've kind of moved away from those group of guys, and this is more about you right now than it is I am part of a group.
Yeah, it's funny because like when Article 15 first started, I had my Instagram, and I'm always very passionate about posting about my kids and my life, and so it's funny. I made a decision early on that I wasn't going to hide what happens in my life. My kids are my kids. My people are like, I don't post my kids. It's like, well, I do, and it's why, because that's me, right? They're a big reason why I am the way I am. They're my motivation for everything I do. I've gone through a few divorces, and I currently have a really positive and solid marriage. And why does it stay that way as much as possible? Because I make the decisions to be home more often, right? I sometimes, those business partnerships were great, but everyone's in a different era of life. Like my kids are not babies, and I have kids. So there's differences in us and them, right? Like my buddies will never understand what I go through until they have teenage kids, right? And so a lot of decisions were being made in business that wasn't conducive to my family life. And I really do believe in, raising my kids and being there for them. And so I had to separate from the group. And that was just for them. It was who I really am. I love Article 15. I love being a part of the whole Black Rifle Coffee crew. I love Lead Singers Whiskey. And I still do my best to work with them when the time is right and when it works for my family. But at the same time, none of that is worth anything. There's no money in the world worth anything when you lose your kids, when you lose your wife. You know what I mean? I've been there before. I've been alone in an empty house sitting there thinking like, what the hell just happened? You know, I put myself and my life in front of my kids for so many years that it left me alone. And I don't want to be like that no more, right? It's you grow, and every day you if you're not trying to grow and be a better father, husband, man, you know, and then you're getting left behind. And so me personally, with the way my life is set up, I didn't have the ability to continue to hang out with the guys and do all the cool trips and even SHOT Show and all these things that look awesome on iTunes. But for me, where I'm at in my life, you know what's awesome was that I cooked my kids breakfast today, and then I'm about to cook dinner right now. You know, it's like it's life changes and priorities, you know, change. And for me, in the end of the day, I just said this in my podcast that I'm going to be uploading. It's like I'm more worried about at the end of the day when I'm on my deathbed, who's going to be holding my hand, you know. And if I continue to live a life where I put myself ahead of them, you know, it's just going to be me in that room, and I don't want to live like that, you know.
Do you find that podcasting is therapeutic almost? Like this is a forum, this is a microphone you can really express yourself on.
Yeah, it's funny, you know, like I guess I never expected to be a voice for not just veterans, but for fathers, for husbands, for struggling guys who are struggling with their weight. I've always been a guy that I get in shape and then I get out of shape. And so being vulnerable enough to express myself and put my story out there through my podcast, I've had so much cool feedback, man, which is cool, right? But it's a place for me to vent. It's a place for me to tell my story and to explain where I screwed up, and hopefully, you know, people that listen, supporters, they don't make the same mistakes, or they learn from my mistakes, right? Or they identify like, oh shit, I'm not the only one, right? And then you don't feel so alone, right? When you can identify with someone on that level, you're like, okay, I'm not doing that bad, right? And so I love doing my podcast. It's hard to find the time to always do the podcast, so mine's not a guaranteed once a week podcast. It's just whenever I sit down and record it and the kids are quiet, you know?
I completely understand that. You know, as much as I try and do my own, like I try to stick to a schedule, and everyone says, you know, number one rule of podcasting is have a schedule. I'm like, okay, you obviously don't have kids, because I've got, I'm with you. I have teenage sons and a 6-year-old on top of it. So scheduling is always tough. Talk to me about a challenge that you've faced recently, something that might have almost derailed you a little bit.
Oh, it's tough, man. You know, the whole business thing is always tough. That's probably always my biggest challenge. I want to be able to pay my bills. I want to be successful, you know what I mean? And like things like acting, there's several opportunities that's come my way that the money sounds great, but am I willing to sell out, right? Am I willing to do something that I don't, you know, that's not healthy for my family or whatnot, you know? And so that's a challenge daily. Like this show is scary, you know, you know how, I mean, it's going to be crazy when I actually have to do, say, an intimate scene with another woman. I don't want to. I'd rather not. You can even cast me as a dude that's gay. I'm happier that way, because I know the drama that could bring forth. Even though it's acting, you know, me and my wife are very passionate about our relationship. It's very solid, and you know, you would hate to throw in that bone where that ounce of insecurities that might have because I'm acting. You know, and so we've already talked about it that this is the only show that I will cross that line, but we still don't want to. I don't want to, right? If this show happens and season 3 or season 4 goes and I get killed off, cool. And then a next show approaches me. It's like, I'm going to offer you $40 million, but you're going to be the love interest of this individual. I'm going to turn it down, because that's I don't need acting. I just want to act. You know what I mean?
It sounds to me a lot like you have I'm not going to say you just did this, because I don't know you enough to say where you've been in your life, but you resonate with the passion of someone who is coming to terms with who they really are.
Yeah.
You know, you're what are you, late 30s, mid 30s?
36, yeah.
You're mid-30s. You're mid-30s, and this is the age where a lot of us, I'm 37 myself, we look back on our experiences. And like you said, I'm with you. I've sat in that empty house. I've wondered how where the fuck how did this happen? How did I end up in this situation? When you're 36, when you're 37, you look at what's around you, and when you've got it good, you're desperate to hold on to it.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. It's funny. Like that's the one thing I want to make sure I put across on social media is that my life is real. There's no gimmick to it. Vincent Rocco Vargas isn't a sideshow. I'm just me. If I post something, it's because I find it personally funny.
Do you feel like you've been a sideshow before? Do you feel like people have tried to treat you that way?
People do. When when you're known as, when you're used to being seen with Matt and JT, and when you're with Matt and JT, there's always shenanigans, right? There's always silliness. People kind of put you into that, like, hey man, why don't you come over here and drink, and so you can drink more? Like, no man, I'm not a child. You know what I mean? Like things like that. It happens all the time, and guys always like, hey, why don't you come over here and hang out and see if Matt wants to come? Like, dude, we're not a sideshow. It's funny, like. We are businessmen. We just knew the market, and we were willing to make funny videos about ourselves and about the military. That doesn't mean like every day I go around just I'm a fool. Like, you're crazy. I'm a serious fucking guy raising kids and paying bills, and I don't fuck around as much as people want to think we did. Half the time they want to think we were as drunk as we were. We're like, half the time we were just carrying empty bottles or whatever, because we're working. Like, we had the world fooled that we're this crazy party animal group, and we're working. And when someone thinks of me as a sideshow, it's like, dude, I'm not. Like, I get done filming, I go home and still take care of my kids. Like I've been a single father of 4 for a minute before I met my current wife, and I was a single father before that, and it's just like there's no time for playing around like that. Like it's a serious life that I have to live, and so. There's a lot of people on social media that are gimmicks, right? They're a sideshow essentially. If you meet them in person, they're not that same person you see on social media, and like that's not what I ever want to portray. When you meet me in real life, it's me. It's no different. The guy you saw in there. Do I like tacos? I fucking love tacos, right? Do I love my kids? I love them. Do I always wear a hat all the damn time? Like it's what you see is what you get with me, and it's you can't really say that about a lot of the internet personalities, and is it good or bad? I like to say it's a slow burn. You know what I mean? My following is people that genuinely care about who I am as a person and what I have to say. And some of the people out there with millions of followers or whatever, they're a gimmick. They entertain people, but when you actually meet them, like, well, is that someone you really want to break bread with? It might not be. It's their entertainment, and I want to be more than that.
This sounds like a very double-edged sword, in the sense you go out there, you kill it in the social media game, and you're all over the place. But at the same time, you're all over the place. People have an expectation, and they, a lot of people don't understand that that's a character that you are not. You're no more your character than Mel Gibson is the guy from Braveheart.
Right, exactly. And that's funny because a lot of people, how many people, like, they meet me and they see in range 15 and they something like, where's the fucking zombie? And I'm like, really, bro? That's the one line you had? That's the one thing you had to say to me that was, all right, dude. You know what I mean? Because, like, as much as I love those fans and they supported us and they continue to support us, we're still normal people that have normal lives. You know what I mean? And the one thing is, anytime we have an event, I definitely take the time to shake everyone's hands, and I take all the pictures they want, whatever it is, right? Because I appreciate this life that's been given to me, because it wasn't done on our own, just hard work. It was done because people supported us the whole way, and they continue to support us. So it is that double-edged sword. You do have to show the face. You should still have to put on that hat from time to time. But hopefully through social media, they see that I humanize myself daily for them to realize, like, dude, I have to tie my shoes like anyone else. And I go through the same things of struggling with money and struggling with relationships and struggling with kids and parenting and everything else. And so, and hopefully in doing so, people will just start to realize, man, it's just another guy just going out there just with the goal of trying to be happy.
If you could go back and change something, if you go back and do something differently, what would it be?
It's tough. I like where I'm at now because I have the ability to be able to influence and help more. And so I don't think any other time in my life that could have happened. Being a Border Patrol agent was amazing. Being on the special operations was amazing. All that stuff is fun. But it all took me from my family more. The better I got in my career, the more I was gone from my kids. Like it was this funny thing, but that was a life that I'll always miss. But I feel like right now it's going in the direction that I could have never have imagined, and I'm happy about, because realistically this could be in the best place to be to help influence and motivate more veterans.
That's terrific, man. Right now there could be a young vet, civilian, listening to this, and they want to be the next Rocco. They want to be out there making their own Range 15 movie. What would your advice be for that up and coming social media vet star?
The most important thing I think is don't lose yourself or find yourself, right? Know who you are, and know what you represent, and stay the course, right? There's going to be a lot of people out there trying to make you change. They want you to influence one way. They want you to do this, and do what's in your heart, man. If you're passionate about making people happy, passionate about making people laugh, then do you, and stay true to yourself. There's too many people out there that are not genuine, and I think it hurts them in the long run. And the last thing is execute. Like execute. There's so many guys that talk about it and they say they're going to do this and they never really do it because they're waiting for the perfect moment. There is no fucking perfect moment. You go out there and you try and you fail and you try again and you fail and you try again. And that's all it is. You know what I mean? Like there's so many people out there that they don't have the willingness to engage. And when I say that is they don't have the willingness to actually execute. They're scared of failure. And if you're scared of failure, you're never going to make it, man. You're going to fail fucking miserably, and all you got to do is bounce back.
It's interesting you say that. I've recently been dealing with my own fear of failure, and that has been in respect to seeking sponsorships and trying to promote my podcast. Yeah. And I was talking to two other business leaders, and they said, "You're afraid to fail." And I said, "Well, of course I'm afraid to fail. I don't want to shut doors that I can't open up again."
Yeah.
And they just looked at me and they said, "Well, dude, those doors weren't meant for you."
Yeah.
And it sounds so stupid. In retrospect, I look back and I'm like, "Well, of course that makes sense." But when you're in your own head, it doesn't make sense. You're like, "Oh, I don't want to shut that door. If I go ask this, that guy's never going to talk to me because he's going to think, well, that guy's an idiot."
Think about this. Like you never know what's going to be it, right? What's going to hit. Like one of your shows, like this one, say this podcast. You never know who this podcast is going to listen to it, and it's going to inspire them, and they're going to change something great in the future. And it's going to be because you had the willingness to engage. It's because you executed your podcast. Whether anyone's listened to it or not, whether it's one person or two people, three, you're going to be able to influence those people, and those people will influence other people. And it's this crazy like ripple effect that happens. And so I put a blind eye to all that crap, and I just put my content out, and whoever receives it, good. If no one else receives it, that's fine too. I don't put it out to get stroked on the back end by anyone else. I put it out because that's what I felt like giving to the earth, right? I felt like giving it out. Here you go. Here's my info. If you don't like it, no worries.
I like it, man. I like it. You need to put a shirt out like, "What would Rocco do?" I like that. Thank you very much, man. I wanted to thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedule. I know you've got kids to cook for, and you got a lot going on. I want to wish you the very best on the Mayans. If people want to get hold of you, if they want to learn more about you and they want to learn more about the show, tell us, where should they go?
Yeah, if you guys check out, probably the most active thing I'm on is my Instagram. It's going to be vincent.rocco.vargas. as well as you can check out. I have a website. I'm always building it. I'm always adding to it. It's called VinnyRock.com, and I have a podcast as well called Vinny Rock Podcast. So you guys check those out. I have all kinds of stuff. I really just started a new blog concept. I'll be writing a blog once, probably every week, and it's really getting into the nitty gritty of my life and things that I've learned. And it's just for those who enjoy reading a cool story. I let myself be very vulnerable and open about what goes on, and it's pretty fun. It's inspiring. It's cool. I enjoy doing it because I enjoy the feedback from it. So
that's terrific, man. Any parting words? Anything else you want to add before we go?
That's good, man. I appreciate it. I had a good time. That was a cool podcast.
Hey, thank you, man. I really appreciate everything you're doing. And all right, don't miss Vincent Rocco Vargas on the Mayans coming to the FX channel this fall. Really great guy, great conversation, devoted family man, a veteran who's making a serious go at that Hollywood life, making that Hollywood splash. I really hope him and I can talk again soon. That's it for episode 39, folks. That's it. What should we do for the big 5-0 that's coming up? We'll be halfway to 100. We got 11 episodes left, but I've got some fire waiting for you guys. Great guest, great lineup coming soon. I've got a reading suggestion for you. The Fire Within, Shedding Light on Trauma. It's a powerful book by veterans and family members who have gone through maybe what you're going through right now. And I'm going to tell you, it's not a polished book. It's not polished. It's not a pretty feel-good or a cheer-jerker, lifetime movie event kind of read. It's not any of those things. These are stories written by the people who have lived it in their words. So visit the AAR website and click on the store link to pick up your copy, or it's right there in the front, right there in the landing page. I'm not getting any piece of that. There is nothing coming to me. This is a legitimate recommendation. I hope you pick this book up. I hope you read it. I hope it has an effect on your life. I hope you think about some of the stories in there. And it's, we talk a lot about PTSD in the veteran community, but I don't know if we're talking about it in the right context. And this book really does put it in a way that is very digestible. It's very, very, the fact that it's in the words of the people who've lived it. It's their words. You're going to see that it's not some polished author, writer stuff. It's a person. It's a human being. And when you read those words, when you read it from the person, I think that's where the difference happens. So check it out. The Fire Within, Shedding Light on Trauma. It's on the website. That does it for me, folks. Don't forget to visit the Seaback Locker Coffee to get your 10% off the very freshest coffee this side of the 7 Seas. Visit thejavacan.com. Thejavacan.com. Get 10% off using the AAR promo code. Like, listen, subscribe, and share the AAR podcast. That's important, guys. Like, listen, subscribe, and share the AAR podcast. Leave a 5-star review on iTunes if you think we've earned it. And I will see you at the next episode.